Again, welcome to Java Programming 1. This is the second part of our Java Graphical User Interface, also called the GUI. So our main objective in these lectures is to learn about the basic Java GUI components, also explore how the GUI components, such as JFrame, JLabel, JTextField, and JButton. And also, we should become familiar with event-driven applications. For example, in Java is an object-oriented programming, but when it comes to Java GUI or GUI application, it's always an event-driven techniques in the sense that I will click a button and maybe something may happen. So the event is clicking on the button, or I may click on a text field or any component, any GUI components, and it depends on the code that is attached to the components and an event to take place. So in this session, we're going to go through the GUI applications, and also these are some of the examples that make it possible for us to use a GUI. For example, in GUI applications, we can view both input and output simultaneously. Example would be an online business. Maybe I can view items that the business is selling, and at the same time, I can order for my items on the same window. Also, one graphical window, input values is in order. So when we have a test field number 1, we can have test field number 2, 3. We can enter input in any order. So I can have a test field at the first one, second one. I can enter a data in my first test field before the second, or I can enter an input in my second test field before the first. So that's what we mean by input values in any order. Also, we can change the input values in the window. So if I enter an input value in the test field, again, I can delete it and enter a new value. And we can click on buttons to get an output. And in this example, that's what we're going to more focus on. So this is an example of a GUI application. Here we have an application that will find the area and also the parameter of a rectangle. So here you can see that we are one thing with GUI application, as we said in the first lectures, is that first we need to design our interface. We need to design our window. So in the console application, I'll go straight ahead, develop the algorithm, write the code. But in GUI, I have to know how many labels I need, how many text fields I need, how many buttons also I need, and how I want to arrange them in my windows. So for example, this is an application, the window is already designed. So based on the design, we say, okay, we're going to have our first label with an instruction, enter the length. Second label with an instruction, enter the width. Third label will be our output for the area. Then parameter, the output, the result of area and parameter. Then we say, okay, we also need 4 text fields. The first text field will take the length, second text field will take the width, the third one will display the area result, the fourth one will display the parameter. Then we say, okay, we need 2 buttons. One button, when we click on it, we are going to calculate both the area and the parameter. Now, when I want to exit the program, I need a button, so I'll click on exit to exit the button. So this is, again, the whole concept of Java GUI. First thing we do, design your window, your GUI interface. How many labels you need, how many text fields you need. Also, we have, for example, radio buttons and so many components. Here, we're going to discuss only labels, text fields, and also buttons. So when I'm going to create a label, I'm going to use a class named JLabel. When I'm going to create a text field, I'm going to use a class named JTextField. So these text fields, they are objects, and I'll use a class. Also for buttons, I'll use a class named JButton to create a button object. Now, before we start, as we mentioned this in the first lectures, we always have to create our frame using the JFrame, then the pane or the window where the element will go inside, or the GUI element will go in. So graphical user interface components, we say we have the GUI components can be placed in the content pane. First, we create our frame, then we have our content pane, then we can add our items in. So GUI components again can be the windows, the labels, text area or text fields, the buttons, radio buttons. So the GUI components we always have to add to the pane of the window, added to the pane. So first thing we do is that we create our JFrame. Again, we are going to see the code step by step. Design your GUI. Then we are going to create our GUI by first creating the frame. When you get the frame, we're going to get the pane object. Then after that, we create our elements or the components, the GUI components such as the JLabel, JText field, JButton, classes to create all these objects. Then we are going to add it to the window or the pane. So again, we'll see the steps. So added to the content pane of window, which is the GUI components, not added to the window itself. Then we know a cursor is just a picture element. So windows can be created using the JFrame, and that's the first thing we have to do. To create a GUI application or the interface, first thing we do is to create our JFrame object using the JFrame class. Also, the JFrame class provide various methods to control the characteristics of the window or the attributes of the window, such as setting the size of the window, the title, the size can be the width and the height, etc. So also we can measure in pixels of the height and width. So when I say the height is 150 by 200, we mean 150 pixels by 200 pixels. And we say pixel again is the picture element, 1 unit of the element, of the picture element. So class JFrame, that's what, again, we said we use it to create our window. So GUI window instance created as instance of JFrame. And this provide various methods to control the window attributes, which is the JFrame class. So these are some of the methods in the JFrame class. First is the constructor. So here we have a default constructor, JFrame. The argument is nothing, so we call default, which means we are going to create a window with no title of the window. So here we say this is used when an object of a type JFrame is instantiated and the window is created without any title. So this is how we write the code. JFrame, the class, my window, that's the name of the window object. So JFrame, my window, equal to new JFrame. JFrame. My window is the window with no title. So JFrame, my window equal to new JFrame. Then here we have a JFrame constructor, this time with a parameter. The parameter will be the title of the window. So this is used when an object of a type JFrame is instantiated and the title is specified by the string S. So example, I can have JFrame, my window again, new JFrame. The title of the window is rectangle. Now, after I created, this is the first, again, method that we call the constructor to, again, initialize or create the window. Now, I can set the size of the window. So we can call the method set size. The first will be the width size and also the height. So example will be my window dot set size 400 by 300, which is 400 width, the height is 300. Then also we can set the title. If earlier time we don't have the title, we can use the set title method. So here we have my window dot set title, then rectangle. Now this method is very important. This set visible. Set visible method, we call it so that if we set it to true, our window will show on the screen. If we if we set it to false, the window will not show. So again, set visible means true or false. If we set the argument to true, our window will display on the screen. If we set it to false, our window will not display on the screen. So here again, we use the constructor already to create our window object, which is called my window. So I'll just say my window dot set visible true to display the window on the screen. Also, we can use the method set default close operation. And then what type of operation? We have different example here is exit on close. So here, this is a method to determine the action to be taken when the user click on the window close button. To close the window, there's few choices I give you. Exit on close, which means if I click on it, I click on the S button to close the window and also exit. Or hide on close, it will hide the window, or dispose on close. Or do nothing on close, so when we click on it, nothing will happen. So example here is that we set the default, our example here, we set the default to exit on close, set default close operation to exit on close. Now we have two ways to create a window. First, we can declare the object of a type JFrame, and that's what we are explaining now. Then we instantiate our object using the JFrame class, then use various methods to manipulate the window, for example, the size, the constructor, the title, etc. Another second way, we're going to use inheritance concept, which means we create a class containing application program by extending the definition of class JFrame and utilizing the mechanism of inheritance. In this class, we are not going to discuss inheritance. That will be Java 2 class. So we are going to use the first way, which is more or less like object-oriented concept. Use the class constructor to create or instantiate your object. Then from there, use the method of the class to manipulate your object window. The second one is using inheritance concept, which will be, and we'll go through that in Java 2 class. So what is a content pane? We already said that in the first lectures. Content pane actually is the window that we put that's why it's called a content pane. It's the window that we normally see on our screen when we put our GUI elements such as the labels, the text box, buttons, etc. So we say it's the inner area of the GUI window, the inner area right below the title. So inside the border. So right below the title is where we see all our data and also element. Now to access the content pane, we need to declare a reference variable of a type container. Then we use the method get content pane of a class JFrame. And we may see this in our example code. So these are the method provided by the class container. This is the method we're going to use always, add. This is the method that we add an object, in this case, label or text field, to our pane. So here we say method to add an object to the pane. Also, we'll say set layout a lot. Set layout to make it possible how we are going to lay out the items in the pane. So method to set the layout of the pane. So now we will go through the labels and then text field and the buttons, which are again the GUI components. So first, if I want to create a label, I'll use the JLabel class. And then also the JLabel class have a constructor, the same concept, object-oriented programming. We can set the attribute, maybe the label, the title, the width, the height. Now to create a label, as we said, instantiate object of a type JLabel. So we use the JLabel class. Then we can modify the attributes to control the display of the labels. So these are some of the few methods that come with the JLabel again class. We have the constructor JLabel. Now you can see that here we don't need to use a constructor without anything in the without an argument, anything. Why? We don't want to create an empty label. A label normally always will consist of instructions. It will consist of instructions what to do next. Maybe I may have a label on my left side saying enter the height of a student. Then on my right side, I have a text box. Then I will enter the input, the height of the student in the text box. So labels always have to have, the argument of the label is the instructions that will be on the label. Even it can be an image also. So here we say a constructor to create a label with a left aligned text specified by str. By default, the alignment is from left. Now we can see that in the second JLabel constructor, we have two arguments. Now we can change the alignment. The first will be the items that will be on the label, the string. Then the second will be the alignment type. It can be left alignment, center alignment, and right alignment. Left alignment, actually, we don't need to use it because by default, I'll just use the JLabel, the first constructor, because by default, it's a left alignment. So this is an example here. We are creating a label named length L. So we have the JLabel, length L, then equal to new JLabel. Then we can see the argument, enter the length. This time we want to set it to the right. So swing constant dot right, right alignment. If it's left alignment, I'll just leave it. I will use only enter the length and close it. Also, we have another constructor, as we said earlier, an image. So we have the string, we have icon, then the alignment. So construct JLabel with both the text and also an icon. And the icon is to the left of the text. Or construct JLabel with only an icon. So again, these are all constructors for the JLabel class. Then we also have the JText field. We say the text field is also object that belongs to a class JText field. If we want to create a text field, we declare the reference variable of a type JText field. Again, same concept as the JLabel. Then we instantiate the object. So here we have a JText field. It's a constructor. Int column means the constructor will set the size of the text field, how many text we need. So if I say 200, that means I can have 200 characters, 200 columns. So constructor to set the size of the JText field. And also we have a constructor to initialize the object with the text specified by str. So the first one is very important. You are going to set the size of the text field. That's why it's int columns, 200, 300, 400. But the second option is you are going to initialize with an object text specified by the string type. Now we also have a JText field. We can have the string and also we can have the number of columns. So constructor to initialize the object with a text specified by str and also set the size of the text field. Then we have a method set a text. This will be a method to set the text of the text field to a string that is specified by str. So I can say set the text to university, college. Then we also have a get a text. We will use this method a lot, especially when we are going to do a calculation. So let's say I'm going to find a sum of two numbers. I have two text fields that I enter two numbers in. I'll use get text to get, anytime we enter data in a GUI, the data type is a string. So you can see that the label, the JText field, everything always, the argument is a string. So if I want to do a calculation, I cannot do it on a string. So what I'll do is I'll use the method getText to get the text from whatever the text name, the text field name is. Then I'll convert it from string to either int or double or float. Then I'll do my calculations. Now, when I do my calculations finish and I want to display the result in a GUI, I have to convert it back to string again. Then before I can display. So every data on the GUI is always string type. So we use getText a lot. And also SetItem. This is very important also. And this method will make it possible that if I enter a field, can I change it? Can I edit it? So if I set it to true as an argument, it means again we can change any value or any content we enter in it. If we set it to false, means we cannot edit the content of the text field. Then we have the method to register the listener object to the JText field. This is very important because your label doesn't need this. The reason why label doesn't need hard action listener, because we are not going to use the content of the label to do any calculations or any duty, any task. It's just an instruction on the screen. But we need the content of a text field. It's an input to use. So we may also use the hard action listener. Now the next will be the JButton class. This is again the class we are going to use to create our button objects. Same techniques as creating the JLabel and also the JText with the same techniques. So I'll use the JButton class constructor to create the JButton objects. And we have some method that we can use to manipulate it. So this is the JButton constructor with an icon argument or with a string. In our program, we're going to use a string. Maybe I'm use a string calculate or a string exit. And so whatever string I use is kind of like instruction to what the button will do. Or we can have a string with an image icon also. Same thing, we can set the text of the button. And also we can get the text of the button. Since button also is related to performing a duty, calculations, or any type of duty, we also need a hard action listener. Hard action listener is the concept of event-driven. So it's kind of like they say action listener. So whatever event we again apply, this program can listen or can take an action on it. So handling an event, we say action event is event created when the J button is clicked. So I click on button and an event will take place. The same thing, we can place our mouse pointer on a text box or any component. We can create an event for it. But in these lectures, we're going to only focus on JButton event. So event listener will be an object that receives the message when JButton is clicked. So in Java, you must register the listener. Here we may see the code. So we use the class action listener, which handles the action event and is part of the abstract window tools.event package. And previously we talked about the packages again, the swing package, the abstract window tools. We also have the JavaFX, but JavaFX again is a new GUI system library file package that we can also use to develop GUI applications. So this is the example we are going to do. So this is a program GUI example. So here we will go through the code that can make it possible for us to do this. After that, I'm going to run the code and we'll see the output also. So here, you can see that we will need three. Like first, we design the GUI, the graphical user interface. Here I see that we need 3 labels. And also I need 3 text fields. And I need 2 buttons. What this program will do is that user will enter two strings. And when you click on Find Larger button, it will tell you which string is greater than the other. So here I enter good and bad. It does that in a dictionary arrangement. We know B comes before G. So G is bigger than B. Now I'll click the exit button to exit from the program. So again, enter string 1, that's my first label instruction. Enter string 2, that's my second label instruction. The last instruction tells us what will be on my third text field, or in this case, text box, which is the larger string. And the first button on my left, when I click on it, actually the instruction is on it, find larger. Click on it, it will tell me the two strings to enter, which one is the larger. When I click on exit, I will exit from the program. Okay, so let's go through the code. And also when I go through the code finish, I'm going to run it, then we'll see how the code works. So here, this is a GUI application. First, you have to have your design already down. I think this program I draw the GUI on a piece of paper, and I need again 3 labels, 3 text fields, and I want them in 2 rows. So this is where we are going to use the layout, set layout method. If I need them in 3 rows, I can design it on a paper, have 3 rows, then I'll set the layout to 3 rows. I said 3 rows. We need 2 columns, the columns. Yes, columns. So in our paper, we see that in our GUI, let me go back one more. I can see that I have 3 labels, 3 text fields. I'm setting them in 2 columns. So 1 column for the labels and the second column again for the text fields, and the buttons, they go the same. I can decide to set it to 1 column, so everything be on 1 line, or 3 or 4, any 5. Now, how do you lay your components? You have to use the set layout method. Okay, so now we know this is going. We need a JavaX package. We also need the abstract window tools, event driven. So we also need the abstract window tools.event, and we are importing all the classes in all the 3 packages. So we are using the asterisks. So now I have my public class. This is my main class. GUI example. Again, this will be the name of my file. GUI example. Extend the JFrame. So here I declare JLabel. Again, I don't have to do this. I can do everything on 1 line when I create my labels. But again, this is another way of doing it. So here I declare my first label. I name it 1L. So JLabel 1L, 2L. Then the third label we call result L, or result label. So you can declare your objects, the GUI objects. The same thing, we declare our 3 text fields. We need J text field, 1 text field, 2 text field, result text field. The type again is J text field, and J label for the labels. Buttons also, we have 2 buttons here, calculate B and exit B. And the type also is JButton. Then here we have our calculate the button handler. Very important. So our object name is CB handler. This is for the event-driven concept. Same thing with the exit. Also, we have the exit button handler, and we call it EB handler. Now, this will be the size of the window, but we again use a constant variable here. We don't have to do all this, but again, to make the program more organized, we declare all the 3 labels, 3 text fields, 2 text boxes, and we specifically use a constant variable for the width and the height of the window. So here we have a public GUI example. So this is what our constructor, in the concept of again a constructor. So here you can see that we have, this is why I said we don't need to declare it. So here I can write JLabel 1L equal to new JLabel, then but again we declare. So since we declare all the objects here, Here I have 1L equal to new J label. The instruction is enter string 1. It's right alignment. The second label, enter string 2. Also, we make it right alignment. The third label will tell us the larger string, also right alignment. So when we go back here, we can see our label, enter string 1, enter string 2, large string. So those are the 3 labels. We created 3 labels. So you can see that here, we are not doing this in the main method. Again, this is going. We have our main class called a GUI example. We extend it to the JFrame. Then we say public GUI example again, kind of the constructor for the main class. And this is where we are creating all our objects. So I'll go to the next slide. Here we have our 3 labels, so we need a text field. Here also we get our J text field. Here we specify the size, so we cannot enter more than 10 items. 10 characters or digits or init items. So we are using the int column. So we say new J text field, 10 for 1 TF2. The result cannot display more than 10 items. So right now we get our labels and our text fields. Now next we are going to create our buttons. Only 2 buttons we need here. So we have the first button named calculate B. Again, we already declare it. If not, we can write JButton calculate B equal to new JButton. So you come straight to the name since we declare it here, even we declare it as a private. Again, this is an option. We can leave it by default without using private or public. It's okay. So we have the calculate B and exit B. So we have JButton. Find larger for calculate B. So that will be on top of the button. Again, we can go back. Find larger string is here. Exit2, we're going to see an exit as a constructor button argument. So here we have our CB handler now. We also declare that is the new calculate button handler. Then we have to add it. So calculate B.add action listener. The CB handler. So here we have a CB handler object. Then we add it as a add action listener to it. Again, this is the event-driven concept to listen to the actions that will take place. And then so the same thing we have to do for the exit button. We have our constructor exit as argument. We create new JButton, dynamically create the button for exit for us. Then the same thing here, we have YB handler, new exit button handler. Then we had the exit B to the add action listener with the argument of YB handler, again for event. So we finish with our components. So now we have to set the layout. But first thing we do is to set the title of the window. When we create a window, we didn't specify the title, so we said the title of this window will be string comparison. So when you look at the window, we have string comparison. So we set the title of the window. Then we get the container. Remember the pane. The pane is the window right below the title, the content. So we get the container. So we have container pane equal to get content pane. Then after that, now we have our pane, we have our element, everything. We set our layout, how we are going to lay the items on there. So it will be 4 rows and 2 columns. So now we are saying what pane, which is our container class object, pane.setLayout, the method set layout. New grade layout is 4 rows, 2 columns. So we can see, let me go back 1 second more. So we can see that here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2. So 4 rows and 2 columns using the grid layout again method. So after that, we almost finished now. We know the layout, we have done the content, everything is done. Now, the last thing we have to do is to add the elements to the pane. So we use the add method. So add label 1. Now you see, this is very important. Place the component in the pane in order. So, and right now we specify that we need 4 rows and 2 columns. We always have to set the layout before we add it. So this means one label will be the first, to be in the first row, first column. Then pane.add one text field. It had row by row. So this will be our first row, second column. 2L will be second row, first column. Then 2TF will be second row, second column. Then we go to the third row, then third row, first column. Result TF will be third row, second column. Then the fourth row, first column, we calculate B. Again, the arrangement of the elements here is very important. Now, if I say 1L, 2L, before 1TF, that means I will see the 2 labels in the first row. By looking at this, we know the labels each for the text field for the instruction. So I don't want to have enter string 1, then enter string 2. No. Enter string 1, the instruction for the text field, what we need to enter string 2. So that's how we had in order. So after that, we are going to set the size of the window and display it. So we set the size. Again, we saw the width and height is defined as a constant variable here to be 400 by 200. So we have 400 by 200. So we set the size here, 400. And the last thing, we have to set it for visible. If we set this to false, then we are not going to see anything when we run the program. Then our last option, exit on close. So if I click the S button, it's going to close and exit the program also. We set it. Now, what we just did, everything we just did now, is just for the GUI. It's just for the graphical user interface. We designed it on a paper. Now we wrote the code for it. We didn't do any calculation. We didn't do nothing. So now we are coming to write our algorithm now. And the algorithm here, we have the calculate. Remember, we were using the calculate button handler, and we associate it with the buttons. So the calculate button. So this is now, when I click on that calculate button, this is where it will come and do its work. So you can see that here I have a class named calculate button handler, implement the action listener for the event. So here we have the, trying to move this out of the way first. So you can see here we have the action perform, action event A, public void. Now, again, this method have to be as it is. This name can be changed. This is what we wrote. We associate with our calculate button. So as we said again, the calculate button handler, this is the calculate button handler method that we associate with our button, calculate button. So we're going to implement it with action listener. So here in our program, when we remember, they told us enter 2 strings, compare which one is greater, then display the greater one. So we declare 2 variables, string 1, string 2. Then we are going to use the get text method. We enter the string in a text field named 1TF. So here I'll say 1TF.getText. So I'm getting the input from the text field 1TF to string 1. Then I'll get the second input, the same thing from the second text field. And the text field name is 2TextF. Again, we can see the names here. Let me go back once. Okay, so the names are here from beginning. 1TF, 2TF. So we enter the 2, and we already had them in the pane, everything. So we get the 2 input. Now, when we get them, let's compare now. All that we do, we use the compare tool, which is a method in a string class. So we are comparing str1 dot compared to str2. If it's greater than 0, that means str1 is greater than str2. If it's less than 0, that means str2 is greater than str1. Or if they are the same, then it's 0, equal to 0. So here we say str1 dot compared to is greater than 0. Then we set test str1 to the result. So the result will be str1 because that is the greater. Remember, result tf is the third test field. So we don't enter no input there. The output will be there. So we use the set test method, and str1, we are setting str1 to result tf. Otherwise, the opposite way, we set str2 to result tf. So the code here doesn't give us the option if they are the same. We can add that also. But again, the whole concept here is to understand how we develop Java graphical user interface applications. Beginning, again, design your window in a piece of paper. How many components you need, very important. The number of labels, buttons, radio buttons, etc. Then after that, we see how it works. We create, even here, we declare our GUI elements. Then we use their constructors in their respective classes like JLabel, JButton, etc. We use their constructors to create the object. Then we have to add the object in the pane. First, we create the pane, and then the steps keep going. So we finish with this. This is our algorithm. Compare two strings if they are the same, or greater or lesser, then show the result. Then exit is only, when you click on exit, you get out of the program. So here, we call the system.exit argument 0. So this will exit the program. Remember, we are using the same action perform, action event E, action perform. This is part of the game, the GUI packages and after window tools package. Then our main method, all we need, just create the object itself. So we need the object str object. Remember, the main class name is what? GUI example. The file name is what? GUI example.java. So what we do in the main method is just creating the main class object. We name it str object. Then that's it. So again, we will go through this code one more time. In summary, in this section, again, we learn about GUI components, how we can create the JFrame first. Again, in GUI, you create a JFrame first. After the JFrame, then you get the pane. Then you put the elements in the pane. You have to create all your GUI elements like labels, text fields, buttons, radio button, etc. So we learn about how we can create the JFrame using the class, the frame using the class JFrame, JLabel, JTextField, etc. So here, again, thank you for these lectures. You can comment or like or subscribe. I'm going to put this video in my YouTube channel too. Before we go again, I'm going to run this program. So I already have the program here. This should take a few seconds. And again, the same code, I don't want to go through. I want to go through one more minute. So these are our packages that we talk about. Our main class name is here. We create our labels, 3 text field, 2 buttons. And also we have our calculate button handler, the CB. This will be the button handler. This will be the exit button handler. We have a constant variable here for the size of the window. Then this is our constructor, probably the main constructor for the program. This is where we do everything. So we create our 3 labels, create our 3 text field, step by step, labels first, text field, buttons, the exit, and both calculate buttons. But remember, we say always we have to associate button to the handlers because of the events. So we have to create add action listener method. Then after we create all the buttons, now we have to set it. So first thing we do is set the title of the window, then get the content, the container, the pane. So we use the method get content pane to create our pane object. Then we set the layout, how our company is going to, our components are going to be laid. Then we had all the components in sequential order. Label, one label first, one TF will be first row, second column, 2L will be second column, that means second row, first column. 2TF will be second row, second column. Result will be third row, first column. Result TF will be again third row, second, except to the end. So after we had finished, we set the size of the window, and also we set the visibility to true so that when we run the program, we will see our window. If I set it to false again, nothing will display. Then also we set the default close operation to exit on close. So if I click on the close button, it will exit the program. Then here is where we do our calculation. So we remember we have the calculate button handler, which says the CB handler here. Let's go back up when we create declare. So calculate button handler, CB handler. We have to, and we use it for our action. Where is it? We use it for our add action listener CB handler as argument. So this is the whole thing we are there. Now, when I'm writing this application in the console, this is all I'm going to write. This is the algorithm. Ask user to enter two inputs, compare which one is greater, and display it. But with GUI again, we have to create our graphical user interface, the window. So here, the first input, we are going to get it from the one test F, the second input from two tests or TF. Then we compare the two, which one is greater, we display it. We display it on the result TF. Then the action, the exit button handler, the action that it will perform is system.out_exit. So the action here means to exit from the program. Then in the main method, we are going to create our main object. Create one window, we know all the items that the window will do. So here I'm going to run it. First I'll compile it. And there's no any error, operation complete. Then I'll click build. Again, I'm using the JGraphs and then run as application. And we can see our window is right here. So I'm going to enter string 1. I can see the cursor is blinking already. So I'm just going to enter university or any string. Then I'll enter college. And of course, university should be greater. U is greater than C. So when I click find the find larger button, it will tell me university is greater. And when I click on the exit button, I should be exit from the program. Or I can click the, remember we said we set the close button also to exit. So I click on here again, and GH should be bigger. Then also instead of clicking the exit button, I can click on the close button because we also set it to exit when we click on it. So again, this will be the conclusion of our lectures on GUI, and I'll try to again make more, go through more lab work. So wish everybody the best. Thank you.